Welcome to Science Views from the Valley. I'm your host, Dr. Kelly Kassan. Science Views from the Valley is a monthly program that will explore interesting science topics and how they relate to the San Luis Valley and the Upper Rio Grande region. Today, I will be talking about two of our greatest inventors, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. Though both men were visionaries, they could not have been more different, not only in personality, but in the way they approached science. These two rivals would become a great case study on how different types of personalities can lead to great science. Thomas Edison grew up in Port Huron, Michigan, where he was homeschooled by his mother. Edison was homeschooled in part because he struggled under the traditional teaching methods. He was, by all reports, a very curious and energetic child who learned best by doing things on his own. Many historians believe that Edison may have had attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD, which would explain why he struggled under traditional teaching methods. He was fascinated by how things worked and would spend hours conducting experiments at home. Edison developed hearing problems at an early age, most likely due to a bout with scarlet fever, a complication of strep throat caused by the bacteria Streptococcus pyogenes, a dangerous strain of bacteria that caused the death of Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets. Streptococcus pyogenes can cause a perforation of the tympanic membrane, otherwise known as the eardrum, causing a type of conductive hearing loss. The bacteria also produces a toxin that can damage the delicate membranous labyrinth, causing sensory neural hearing loss. Edison suffered complete deafness in one ear and almost complete deafness in his other ear. Though deafness would be a debilitating disorder in the mid-1800s, Edison believed that his hearing loss allowed him to avoid distractions and better concentrate on his experiments. This view also supported the hypothesis that Edison had ADHD. Edison's curiosity continued into his teens. He worked odd jobs, including selling various items on trains to earn money to buy supplies for his electrical and chemical experiments. Edison eventually started his first business, a newspaper called the Grand Trunk Herald, when he was 12. His success at printing and selling newspapers revealed a genius for business, and he would go on to start at least 14 companies, of which General Electric is one that exists today. Edison was later trained to be a telegraph operator, but when he was 19, he was fired from his job at Western Union when he was caught conducting experiments during one of his shifts. Edison was working on a lead-acid battery when he spilled sulfuric acid, which leaked through the floorboards to his boss's office below. Edison was 22 when he received his first patent for an electric vote recorder. Politicians, however, mistrusted the electric vote recorder, and the machines did not sell. Edison decided after that experience to no longer waste time inventing devices that would not sell. Edison later moved to New York City and stayed at the home of a fellow inventor, Franklin Leonard Pope, who allowed Edison to work in his basement. From this start, Edison received several more patents for devices that improved the telegraph machine, including the multiplex telegraph system that allowed Western Union to send two messages simultaneously in both directions. When Edison was 29, he created the famous laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey. During this time, Edison would work long hours. Edison once said, "I never quit until I get what I'm after. Negative results are just what I am after. They are just as valuable to me as positive results." This statement revealed that Edison had the right attitude towards experimental results. Negative results always occur in science. If a person views them as providing information on how to refine their experiment or view the problem in a different way, they will see greater success than those who abandoned the problem. Edison also worked with Alexander Graham Bell and helped him with the telephone. Edison's transmitter allowed voices to be transmitted at a higher volume with better clarity over telephone lines. His work with Alexander Graham Bell gave him insight that inspired him to invent the phonograph. The phonograph was initially very successful due to the novelty, but public appeal, much like we see today with new items, eventually waned. Edison moved on to other projects that would be marketable, including the electric light system. The process of inventing the electric light bulb revealed Edison's incredible persistence. Edison's first attempt, using a thin platinum filament in a glass vacuum bulb, burned for only a few hours. Undaunted, Edison tested thousands of other materials to serve as a filament. Inspiration occurred when Edison was rolling a piece of compressed carbon between his fingers. Edison began to carbonize filaments gathered from every plant that was known at the time, including plants that were collected in the tropics and other remote areas. Edison stated that he had tested no fewer than 6,000 different plant fibers. Edison stated that his electric light experiments were the most tedious and time-consuming of all his inventions, but he remained hopeful for success. He stated, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." He eventually tried a carbonized cotton thread filament in the glass vacuum bulb, which lasted 15 hours. Edison would spend more time refining the cotton filament, eventually being rewarded with a patent for the electric lamp. Edison's success with the electric lamp led to his involvement with developing a commercial central electric power station in New York City. Edison established the Edison Illuminating Company, whose purpose was to build electrical generating stations. The first central electrical power station was the Pearl Street Station, built in 1882 in Manhattan. The power station was fueled by coal and initially provided enough electricity to light over 400 lamps. Though this station would burn down 8 years later, the Edison Illuminating Company would go on to build electrical power stations in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Maryland. The Edison Illuminating Company was eventually sold and became Consolidated Edison in 1936. This company currently provides power to 3.3 million people in New York and New Jersey. Nikola Tesla was a Serbian-born inventor who could not have been more different than Thomas Edison. Unlike Edison, Tesla was formally trained in engineering and physics in Croatia at what is now known as the Gymnasium Karlovac. Here, physics professors noted Tesla's photographic memory and his ability to perform integral calculus in his head. Tesla completed a 4-year program in 3 years. Tesla then contracted cholera, an often deadly infection caused by the bacterium Vibrio cholerae, after he graduated. His father, an Eastern Orthodox priest, promised to send Tesla to the very best engineering school if he recovered from his illness. Tesla was later enrolled in the Imperial Royal Technical College in Austria. Despite earning the highest grades, Tesla never graduated, in part due to a gambling addiction that he developed in his 3rd year in college. Though he conquered his addiction, he was unprepared for his 3rd year exams and dropped out of college. After attending a few classes at the Charles Ferdinand University in Prague, Czechoslovakia, he went to work at a telegraph company in Budapest, Hungary. Tesla was promoted rapidly and became the chief electrician at the company within a few months. A year later, he was offered a job at the Continental Edison Company in Paris, installing electrical lighting for an electrical power utility. Tesla became known as a troubleshooter, and he was sent to solve problems at other Edison utility companies around France and Germany. 2 years later, one of the managers of Continental Edison was called back to the U.S., and requested that Tesla be brought back with him. Tesla was immediately sent to work at Edison's Machine Works in New York City, where he excelled at troubleshooting installations and improving electrical generators. Later, Tesla was signed to develop an arc lamp street lighting system, a system that was popular in cities but was incompatible with Edison's low-voltage incandescent system. 6 months after working for Edison's Machine Works, Tesla quit. According to Tesla's autobiography, he had been offered $50,000 to develop 24 different types of machines. When Tesla succeeded in this assignment, he learned that the offer had been a practical joke. Another version of the story is that Tesla, having developed the 24 machines, including improvements to Edison's DC electrical generators, went to Edison himself about the bonus, only for Edison to respond, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Tesla quit soon afterwards and worked independently on an arc lighting system. After presenting his ideas to a patent attorney, Tesla was introduced to 2 businessmen who agreed to finance an arc lighting manufacturing and utility company in Tesla's name. This company became Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing. Through this company, Tesla would obtain patents for an improved DC generator and arc lighting systems. But though Tesla's invention gained recognition in the technical press, his investors had no interest in Tesla's ideas involving the alternating current motors and electrical transmission equipment. The investors abandoned Tesla's company and formed a new utility company, which left Tesla penniless. Tesla was forced to take jobs as a ditch digger and various electrical jobs to make a living. Despite this hardship, Tesla continued with his inventions. Tesla's hardship would not be for long. At the end of 1886, he met 2 men who were willing to invest in Tesla's inventions, and together they formed the Tesla Electric Company in 1887. That year, Tesla developed an induction motor that ran on alternating current, a major advance because alternating current could be transmitted long distance, unlike direct current. Tesla's induction motor gained a lot of attention, particularly from George Westinghouse, the founder of the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company. Westinghouse's engineers, once learning of Tesla's induction motor, decided that Tesla's patent would control the market. Westinghouse needed Tesla's motor for developing the AC system he was working on for his company. So Tesla's investor negotiated a deal with Westinghouse, selling the motor and transformer designs for $60,000 in cash and a royalty of $2.50 per AC horsepower produced by each motor. Westinghouse also hired Tesla for 1 year, paying him an extraordinary $2,000 a month. Thus began what is now known as the War of the Currents. Westinghouse, backed by Tesla's expertise, promoted AC power. Edison backed his own DC power. AC was able to transmit power over a much greater distance than DC, making it superior for city lighting systems. Edison, therefore, started a propaganda campaign to prove that AC was far more dangerous than DC, hoping to turn the market towards his DC power systems. Edison would hire people to make public displays of killing stray dogs and other animals with AC power, inspiring the invention of the electric chair. A death penalty commission member, Dennis Alfred Southwick, contacted Edison, who suggested that AC power would be best for developing the electric chair because it was far more dangerous than DC power. Edison was later asked by government officials on what would be the best way to implement the new form of execution. Edison replied, "Hire out your criminals as linemen to the New York electrical lighting companies." New York electrical companies at that time used AC power. Less than 2 years later, the electric chair was first used on William Kemler, a street merchant who had murdered his common-law wife. Edison had recommended that 1,000 volts of AC power would be enough to kill a man. But after shocking Kemler with 1,000 volts, prison physicians were shocked to find that Kemler was still breathing. So they shocked him again, this time doubling the voltage. Doubling the voltage proved to be a horrible mistake. Kemler burst into flames. His skin ruptured and bled. His flesh singed. An autopsy would reveal that the blood vessels under his skull had carbonized and his brain hardened. Westinghouse would later comment on the Kemler execution, stating, "They would have done better with an axe." A year later, in 1890, DC power was becoming less popular despite the intense propaganda against AC power, and Edison decided to leave the electric power business. But the financial panic of 1890 led to Westinghouse encouraging Tesla to release the company from royalty payments for using Tesla's AC devices. Tesla, now wealthy, would develop his own independent laboratories. Tesla, the idealistic visionary, hoped to make electricity free worldwide. He would invent the Tesla coil and develop wireless lighting systems, which Tesla demonstrated at the International Electrical Congress in 1893. Tesla would also be consulted on the best way to transmit the power generated by Niagara Falls. These successes allowed Tesla to find investors to found the Nikola Tesla Company, based in New York City, and the Tesla Experimental Station in Colorado Springs. Tesla would build the largest Tesla coil ever built at the Tesla Experimental Station. Though the Tesla Experimental Station was torn down in 1904 and sold in order to pay Tesla's debts, you can still see a plaque in Memorial Park noting where the laboratory once stood. When Edison died in 1931, Tesla's bitterness over Edison's treatment of him years earlier still burned. Tesla contributed his opinion on Edison's death to the New York Times, stating, "He had no hobby, cared for no sort of amusement of any kind, and lived in utter disregard of the most elementary rules of hygiene. His method was inefficient in the extreme, for an immense ground had to be covered to get anything at all, unless blind chance intervened, and, at first, I was almost a sorry witness of his doings, knowing that just a little theory and calculation would have saved him 90% of the labor. But he had a veritable contempt for book learning and mathematical knowledge, trusting himself entirely to his inventor's instinct and practical American sense." Though Tesla spent the rest of his life in debt and struggling with an obsessive-compulsive disorder, he never gave up on his vision of developing wireless power. He continued to invent transmitters that he hoped would eventually transmit electrical energy across the Atlantic Ocean. But investors balked at funding the project, and Tesla, deeply in debt, would lose his property to the banks. He would live in various hotels in impoverished conditions until Westinghouse, hearing of Tesla's financial situation, paid him $125 a month in consulting fees for the rest of Tesla's life. By 1934, Tesla would claim that he designed a superweapon that would end all war, which would later be called his death ray. This claim led to the FBI confiscating his belongings 2 days after his death in 1943. Donald Trump's uncle, an engineering professor at MIT, was called in to analyze Tesla's items, and he declared them to be non-hazardous, stating that most of Tesla's efforts were speculative or philosophical in character, rather than workable devices. So here we have an excellent study in the contrast of two great inventors. Edison, the slovenly, self-taught, practical man who invented devices to make money, would obtain 1,093 patents. These inventions would include the microphone, the telephone receiver, the kinetoscope, which is a device used to view moving pictures, storage batteries, rechargeable electrical batteries for electrical cars, the electric pen, and the mimeograph. Tesla, the well-dressed, more formally educated visionary who cared little for money, patented 300 inventions. These included the alternating current devices, the high-voltage transformer, aka the Tesla coil, the magnifying transmitter, the Tesla turbine, hydroelectric power, the neon lamp, the induction motor, the bladeless turbine, and the radio-controlled boat. Despite their great differences in personality and education, both scientists advanced science and society greatly, demonstrating that the world needs both practical scientists and visionaries. In astronomy-related news, Venus will be at its brightest tomorrow. Look for a very bright, large star in the western sky just after sunset. The Taurid meteor shower can be seen from November 4th to the 5th. The Taurids are unusual since they occur due to a debris field left by two celestial objects, the asteroid 2004 TG10 and the comet 2P Encke. Asteroid TG10 is an eccentric asteroid and classified as a near-Earth object because its orbit also crosses the Earth's orbit. Though this is a minor shower with only 5 to 10 meteors per hour, this year it will occur during a new moon, providing dark skies and excellent viewing of the meteors. These meteors will appear to radiate from the constellation Taurus, which can be seen just to the right of the large constellation Orion. Thank you for listening to my discussion on Edison and Tesla. I hope you found this topic informative. If you have any questions or a topic you would like to hear discussed on this show, please send me an email at spiderwomankrza@gmail.com. If you would like to hear my past shows, they are archived on YouTube at Science Views from the Valley, Alamosa, Colorado. Next month's show will be on November 25th, Thanksgiving, when I will discuss the biology of turkeys, just in time for Thanksgiving dinner. I would like to thank everyone here at KRZA for their help in developing this show, and I hope you will tune in next month.